On day 22, we'll leave Boise, Idaho, and drive to the Haggerman fossil beds. Visit there a while, go to Shoshone Falls and Twin Falls, go down to the Golden Spike National Historical Park, then drive through Brigham all the way over to Logan, where we'll spend the night. It's time to head out early in the morning. We have a lot to do. We didn't originally have Haggerman Fossil Bed National Monument on our list of things to do, but then we saw the sign on the highway and said, hey, let's go. So now we're arriving at the park itself. The park itself has a grassy plain with ponds and forest up on top, and is the Pleistocene epoch. As you can see here, the map says over 200 species have been found here in the fossil beds. 8 are only found here, and 43 of those species were originally found here. First excavation started in 1929, and you could walk the path if we could get on over there, but we have to do a lot of hiking to get there. And this is what it looked like when it was still full of wildlife. As the sign said, lava flowed through this area with the river separating it, so you have lava on one side of the road and sedentary rocks on the other. And now we've entered Haggerman, Idaho. Species they have found here included the saber-toothed cats, ground sloth, hyenas, beavers, antelope, and deer, fish, and others. But the visitor center isn't open, and we can only look through the window and take a few pictures. This is one of the more complete skeletons that they found here. And now it's time to head on out. We're heading to Idaho Falls and Shoshone Falls there. Soon we're driving on the road that goes down to Shoshone Falls. This is the Snake River that we're going to be driving down to, and this is one of the major falls in that area. We have to go down into the ravine to see the falls very well. And now we come to the toll booth where you have to pay to go in and park. But it'll be worth it. Although the falls today are really almost off. They're fairly dry and not flowing with a lot of water. Along the way we see a small waterfall that flows into the Snake River here. But the one we're looking for is much larger than this. We enter the Shoshone Falls recreation area and look for a place to park so we can get out and walk over to the falls. We're along the Snake River, and we're going to be looking in this area at one of its major falls. Actually, although it looks like there's a lot of water flowing, this is almost dry. This is what it looks like when water is flowing very heavily through it, all the way across. And this is looking down the Snake River. And there's the power plant, and here's the falls. A little bit down from the river, that's where Evel Knievel tried to jump the Snake River. We didn't go see that area, and now it's time to come up out of the ravine and head on our journey. Our next stop was also not on our itinerary for the day, the Golden Spike National Historical Site. We see a sign for it and said, hey, there's another site we can go to, and we have the time, so we go. Along the way, we drive past the Northrop Grumman Innovation Systems. This is where they build rocket ships to go into space. Here's some of the samples of what they build here and test here. We didn't see any of the testing as we drove by, but this is a huge complex, as you can see here, covering many square miles. I got video as we drove by. There's the camera. We head on down the road, and soon we come to the sign for the Golden Spike National Historical Park. And we're going to be looking here for a little bit. And obviously we have to pass a railroad crossing. While we are there, they're celebrating the 150th anniversary of driving the last spike to finish the Transcontinental Railroad. This is what the park looks like. And we're going to be at the visitor center most of the time. This marker was put here in 1915. The vision was Lincoln's. He wanted to join the nation transcontinentally, and so they started to gather the labor force. The Union Pacific gathered war veterans and others. The Central Pacific used Chinese for labor. The first step was to survey the routes, and they were hundreds of miles ahead of the builders. Then came the grading. They had to make a grade so that the trains could get up it, cutting through mountains and filling in. Then they built the tunnels and trestles they needed. Then they came laying track. Up to 10 miles a day they could lay. Then they had the final touches, snow sheds and telegraphs. It stretched from Sacramento to Omaha. But there was a great competition and they were bypassing each other. So it was decided that Promontory Point would be the place they joined on May 10th, 1869. People gathered here for the ceremony. From the west came the Central Pacific, the Jupiter, and from the east came the Union Pacific's number 119. They had a great celebration, drove a golden spike in, and proclaimed the Transcontinental Railroad was now open. Today we're going to relive part of that. They have rebuilt those engines at millions of dollars each, and they actually work. We've had a ranger talk to us, and now they're going to move. The Central Pacific started building from the west on January 1863 and built 690 miles of railway. The Union Pacific started building in December 1863, and they built 1,086 miles of railway. Both were paid in dollars and in land for each mile they built. As we sit here watching this, realize that the landscape is pretty well what it was at that time. The mountains in the distance was the mountains, and these are exact replicas of those two engines. And now it's time to head over to Logan, Utah, where we'll be spending the night. We'll be driving around the northern end of the Great Salt Lake. It's dried up mostly in this area, and there's sand and salt here, and some open water for waterfowl. Soon we're passing through Brigham, Utah.
It doesn't also mean it's a cold.
No, not necessarily. As we leave Brigham and head into the mountains, we're going to Logan. Along the way, we're going to see some beautiful fall leaves. Let's just watch. Then we head down into the valley to Logan, Utah. Soon we're arriving at our hotel for the night. We'll be staying in the Comfort Inns and Suites. And this brings us to the end of day 23.